Welcome to the last, the Nerdom, the podcast where we dive into the world of nerdy pop culture, exploring everything from timeless classics to hidden gems. This week, we're going to take a closer look at the 1994 horror thriller Demon Wolf, uh, starring the legendary Jack Nicholson and directed by Mike Nichols. This film combines supernatural horror with a sharp commentary on corporate life, midlife crisis, power, as well as the primal instincts that lie just beneath the surface of our human nature. Nicholson's compelling performance as a man transforming into a werewolf is both chilling and captivating. Join us as we unpack the film's themes, unforgettable moments, and the lasting impact it's had on the blended horror. Is it drama, horror, or a supernatural thriller? Stay tuned for more.
Easy to Lovecraft, they dish the facts. Lightsabers clash and case on their backs. Xenomorphs lurking Gotham's dark alleys. With every episode, the fandom rallies. The first to last, the Nerdom with Mike and Tom. Dropping nerd knowledge like an atom bomb. Discussing the cosmic, the scary, the epic. Tune in, strap in, it's all real, authentic. Galaxies far, far, horrors, chilling lore. From Krypton to Hogwarts, always explored. Panels and pages, heroes and stages. Worlds colliding, they know all the phases. Wicked X-Wings and Daleks that scream. Phantom zones and vampire dreams. Multiverse open and ready to storm. Mike and Tom in the lab, setting the norm.
Hi.
Oh,
Perfect. Yeah. Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
I'm good. Need to wrap up our. I wouldn't say it was a month, but we had a few weeks of the Wolf this February.
Yes, we did.
So we're ending it out with a bang with Jack Nicholson. He's known for making an impression, and we hope we will as well.
Absolutely, yeah. But before we get into the big show here, we are the first, the last, the Nerdom home base on YouTube. You can find us there, and you can also find Tom is our director of social media, and he has got a very good presence. And thank God you found the Tubi subreddit. Shout out to them. We've actually you've been knocking out of the park the last few weeks as we've come along here. We've got quite a few extra people on board. So thank you for subscribing and liking and watching our content. We really appreciate that. But I'll let you take it from here for the socials.
Yeah. I'm on Reddit as FirstLastNerdom, finding a subreddit near you to promote our stuff, and then I'm also on X under FirstLastNerdom as well. So if you want to know the latest and greatest video that we have out, just check us out on X under FirstLastNerdom, and you have your social media as well.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
there's mine.
Yeah, it took me a minute there. Yeah, I also am on X, where if you want to have a longer form conversation with me and Tom, we'd love to have it. We'll try to find at least 1 or 2 points during the week to connect and just comment on something silly, non-existent, or something something substantial there. But also available on my home base publication, long form, silly content, serious content, everywhere in between. 8bit.inc. And as always, this week we are getting into the, as you said, the 94 made Wolf, which basically, without Jack Nicholson, this thing would not have done anything. This was like back in that era, because he had he was asked at certain critical points when this was being made, both before and after, hey, who do you want? What do you want to do, Jack? And of course, that was at him at his prime, apex. And you also have a wonderful, Michelle Pfeiffer, and of course James Spader. Some kind of very ultra classic scenes that I'm surprised haven't been memed out more, to be honest. These kind of this is like one that is not necessarily a cult anything or whatever. This pick this week was from me. This is the part the last 3 of 3 parts here where we explore some aspect of werewolf. Like whether it's classic examples or the spirit of it, this one would have been a little bit more like trying to be deconstructed. I would say at a high level. What would you say, Tom? And what's your background on this one? Did you see it when it was out in theaters? What was that? What was that like for you?
I saw it in the theater. Yeah. Yeah, I was back in that day. I was a high class horror fan. I didn't I try to stay away from like the slasher movies. I was above that stuff. I wanted a more refined, horror take on things. So yeah, this seemed like something that this was something that appealed to me. Jack Nicholson, of course, and then a director that didn't normally do horror was doing this horror movie, and I was subscribing to Fangoria magazine at the time, and they were writing about it. So I was excited about it, and so yeah, I actually, and then back in the '90s, I went to the movies a lot because I had finally a car, and I was mobile, and I hated VHSs. I know there's this craze, and we talked to my buddy Chris last year or the year before about him collecting VHSs, but I never liked the pan and scan. I wanted the full screen experience of a movie, and I couldn't get that at home. I had to go to the theater to get that. Now, of course, you can get your widescreen treats at home on a good sized TV. But really, during the '90s, if you wanted a true widescreen viewing of a movie, you had to go to the theater to see it.
Yeah, I hear you. I also got to go see. I believe I got to go see this with a family member, or I snuck in. I can't remember, but it was back then. They didn't really. They said that they would check IDs and stuff, but as long as you kind of like work, nobody really bothered you then. Back then, I was about 12, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember I remember seeing it, and then I was excited to rent it, and then I rented it again. I love this one back then because it was to me back that was back in the in definitely in comic book days for me, like where
Mm-hmm.
a family member would get me a subscription to Marvel, whatever, like the big main ones, and thankfully they picked the right
Mm-hmm.
ones. They picked the X-Men ones, and I got a few years of that, and of course I was into the trading cards and whatnot back then,
Mm-hmm.
and collecting them with my buds, middle school, all that kind of those really fun times. But I remember I really loved Jack Nicholson. I always liked him, and this is kind of like where it was. He was peaking out. He was like slowly. And it's no slight against him. It's just that he was getting older, and some of the things that we kind of joke about, like with Pedro Pascal and every other Disney thing, or every other property, like that guy is like 60, practically. But he
Mm-hmm.
looks very. He looks the way anyway. But Jack Nicholson, to me, I always thought it would have been amazing to have like a Jack Nicholson type Wolverine character.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had this. You would also have the opposite with. This is way before Hugh Jackman was ever considered
Mm-hmm.
the thing. Of course, it would have never happened because just the age and things wouldn't quite have worked out. But in my mind's eye, I always thought this is kind of like. This is kind of the off-brand, Wolverine and Sabretooth kind of type
Mm-hmm.
story, in my opinion. Like so.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah,
adolescent,
I could definitely
yeah,
see that.
exactly.
As I was watching it, yeah, I got those Wolverine Logan vibes as he was trucking through the woods in his dad pants. Yeah,
It's dad pants, that's for sure. Yeah. So what this movie's about? It really is deconstructed. They didn't want to play with the normal tools and tools and talents that you would have for a werewolf kind of film. They wanted it to be a little. It's kind of weird. They kind of. It's not cobbled together. I wouldn't say that. But it definitely. I think it. I was kind of intimating that it doesn't quite. It's not a horror film at all. It's not an action film at all. It probably is a little bit more of a supernatural thriller, but does it really have supernatural? Not really. They don't really go into too much detail here or there. They just kind of they stay for a moment on this on how it happens or whatever. but they quickly go away, and then you keep moving on. But you have this wolf directed by Mike Nichols and starring Pfeiffer and James Spader, and this one slipped through the cracks. I think was what I wanted to get to. But what would you think about how it came on, and what do you think? What it caught you for, like, what kind of a genre, if you were to kind of call it that? Because it's got a little bit of a European, some serious talent behind it for how they did stuff. But it also kind of has that feeling of a Hollywood back then, slick corporate, you know, um, kind of sheen to it, I
Yeah.
guess. Not in a bad way. Just in look, this movie is not a it's not hitting the top of anybody's charts at all. But that's why I kind of like this is more of a vibe movie, I guess, for me. Why I wanted to kind of see it, because it was just so iconic and I remember it. And I like to occasionally go back through it and watch it. But what are your thoughts? Where you come in on this
Yeah.
landing, trying to land this plane here?
Oh. Well, yeah,
Not upside down
it's
though.
a movie that well, like I said, I did see it in the theater, and I was excited about it. But when I initially came away from it, back then was okay, is okay movie. And then I never did go back. Unlike you, I didn't ever go back to rewatch it until you suggested it
Okay,
again.
right,
But
right.
it was always kind of stuck in my head. I remembered it. As soon as when we kind of stumbled upon this kind of wolf thing, because I
Right.
ordered a couple of wolf movies, just because I'd been meaning to get those. And again, this is our werewolf not werewolf kind of thing, because neither of us are really werewolf people. We
Right.
like movies that are sort of werewolf but not really. and this is sort of in that vein as well. But yeah, so on when you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that one. And so yeah, I was interested to see on second viewing how it held up, if it got better, worse, whatever. It kind of kept sort of like the that same theme with me, with being, yeah, it's good. There's at times you could have made it greater because you had the talent. um i i, I think there was kind of a missing of focus. They should have leaned one way or another
Mm.
into one aspect of the movie. Instead it kind of waffles in between everything, and it just kind of it tells a story, and it's an entertaining story. But how much are you getting out of it, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah. And also, um I'm the physical media guy, but I didn't have a physical media of this, so I was kind of I kind of was like looking, and it's not really streaming on anything. I
Mm-mm.
found it streaming on Vex, which was this it ended up it started playing. I was like, oh wow, cool, cool. But it was in Spanish, and it was like the voices were in Spanish,
Right.
and the subtitles were in Spanish. Those are your only choices. And my you know Spanish speaking girlfriend would have enjoyed it, but I wasn't prepared for that. And the weird thing was they were kind of flashing the names, and for some reason in this Spanish subtitle version, or language version, they pronounced the names of the actors as they appeared on the screen for some reason. So it was like
Interesting.
Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer. And I
Right.
was like,
That's
okay.
funny.
I was kind of digging the vibe. I almost wanted to watch it with English subtitles, but that wasn't an option. So I did ended up renting it on full TV.
Right.
And uh, this is my thing against streaming. I was watching it, and during the middle of it, there was like a couple of sections where it stuttered, almost
Oh
like my
no.
internet was kind of going out, but it
Sure.
wasn't. It was the movie playing, and it was like ever so often it would, it's probably like a bad cut of it or something that they have streaming on there. So yeah, it was either that or the Amazon devil, so demon Amazon. So I went with Apple to see if there were any better. But yeah, I
Right.
was like, okay, yeah, about
Yeah,
the same, I guess.
yeah, and it kind of just back up a little bit to kind of go into the story a little bit more. And then it's not
Oh
too important, but you have Wolf tells the story of an aging publishing executive who is past his prime, kind of a little bit, just a few tick marks beyond his heyday, which is Will Randall. That's Jack Nicholson's character, and he gets bitten by a wolf. When driving in a snowy Vermont night. And as he starts to change and react, he experiences, enhanced senses. Again, very much Wolverine type things. Wolverine, if you're not familiar, has enhanced senses like smell, hearing, da 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 da. So he also kind of seems like you can kind of see him transform in this and kind of become a little bit more fuller and more muscular, so to speak, more primal. And
Mhm.
he also has a lot more drive that are a little bit more. This is kind of like where it kind of teeters on that thing of like, it's look, it's not. In a certain area, it kind of, I guess, is a little bit art housey, a little bit with how it kind of plays with the concepts of expectations and society and civilization. I'm not really kind of getting into any of that, but
Mhm.
at the heart of it, you have this story, this kind of the setup where he is either you're either getting screwed over or you're trying to screw somebody else over. But if you have a humanity there and you're not a non-asshole, then which I kind of very much get that Nicholson's character is more of like an everyman that like we're just supposed to kind of see him and kind of interpret our various kind of things. Of course, I was so far away from
Yeah,
middle
he's sort of
age
like, yeah,
back then, but
yeah, he's like
now it's kind of funny to kind of see it through young eyes
different
and
eyes. Yeah. Mhm.
seeing it with the silver screen and the thoughts of overlaid with Wolverine and Sabretooth versus nowadays like where it's like I can kind of, I kind of get, I get it. Like, that it's called. It's also kind of funny because I feel like Mike Nichols put a little bit of himself in there. I kind of watched. I nerded out quite a bit more than I probably should have on this one. But he did an interview, and in the interview, he talked about how Hollywood in general, well, not just Hollywood, but like New York. New York is like where you always have to be on, you're always going, you're always go go go, you're always on in the zone. And in some ways that's also true for Hollywood as well, but it's kind of like you can kind of see, I can see like where he put that a little bit in there maybe. And I'm no Mike Nichols fan, although shame on me for not pulling up his thing. I had already had it preloaded, but he is known for some movies in his time.
Yeah. The
He
Graduate and Catch 22. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so he definitely that. I do think that this was not to his strength at all because some of the action sequences are not. I mean, they're there because they're in the script. They're not there because they are a hallmark of the thing. Although that is true and not true in my opinion. Like they did some pretty good practical effects. Like this is, if this movie were made today, it would be CGI'd out the ass. Let's put that way. So it's just kind of also a weird middle ground for how it is too in general. But anyway, I'll pull back there and like see, you had any commentary on his past work or Nicholson's past work, or like what is your favorite Nicholson film that you like?
Um, but the only other one I've seen is The Graduate, which I enjoyed. I don't know, Mike Nichols, his au revoir, as I say. That's he his movies look like they're competent, that they tell an interesting story,
Right.
but their stories I'm not really interested in.
Sure.
So I might have seen Bloxy Blues. I'm not
Let's see.
sure if I
Yeah.
did, but
I've definitely
if I
seen
did, it
Primary
was.
Colors, and I've seen The Birdcage, and I've seen The Graduate, like you mentioned, and then of course this
Mhm.
one. But Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah. The Graduate has a epic ending. I'll say that. Although this ending was, I'm gonna have to ask you about the ending of this movie and your opinion on it, but a little bit later. But
sure,
yeah, it's
yeah.
so yeah. This is during the time when we had real well, actors with personality. It's like when they got an actor, it was because they wanted to see that actor in this role. With Jack Nicholson, you got Jack because Jack was going to be on the screen playing this. That was the selling point of this movie, so to speak. Was you get to see Jack Nicholson be a werewolf, and that's what everybody wanted to see. I don't think you could do that today. I mean, you can't really go see The Rock as the werewolf. It's like, okay, all right, but yeah, everybody was kind of excited.
You said
Back
The
in the day
Rock. That's
when
so funny. Yeah,
if you unfortunately recently Gene Hackman passed away, but
he
if
did.
you wanted Gene Hackman, you got Gene Hackman for the role because you knew what he was going to deliver. But with the actors today, like Timothy Chalamet, he's a really good actor, but he's kind of a chameleon and can do different things, and you don't really get him to be him. You get him to do the role that he's there to play, and he'll kind of lose himself in the role. Whereas if you wanted De Niro, you knew what you were going to get. And then so this movie, obviously Nicholson played the wolf, really well, and you knew he would. But he, like you said, he starts off as kind of the schlub guy at work that everybody likes, that really doesn't kind of push his agenda and makes himself important to the higher ups. He's there with the grunts on the ground, and he gets kind of walked over and pushed aside. And I really couldn't buy Jack Nicholson as that guy. He did try to sell it, um, but so it didn't really ramp up and get interesting until he started becoming
Hmm.
the wolf character.
I could see you're absolutely right. I could see that. That's a legit take. And I was saying, like I said, art house, and I think that comes from Nichols, because he is kind of he does have he is not known for horror. He doesn't know. I don't think that he really knows how to make a horror. And I'm not saying that this was supposed to be a horror film at all. I will say, I think that we didn't probably get the best version of the film or the script rather, or the screenplay that we could have got, because I know that there was a little bit of interplay between prior people who had come in the door before and kind of took a whack at it, and then kind of people were asked to kind of leave the project as it developed.
Yeah,
But there's that push and pull, and I believe the rewrite that came in, it was a female. I unfortunately she was not credited, and I'll pull that up here in a minute. But she
well, I saw
interjected.
that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I thought Wesley Strick kind of came in and wrote on it. Yeah, the Jim Harrison. Yeah, I was reading. It was Jack Nicholson. He got his buddy Jim Harrison. He'd been trying to make this movie or get this movie made for like 12 years, and Jack finally was able to get it to get it to be made. And yeah, unfortunately, um, when Mike Nicholson came on, that pushed Jim off to the side. And I found this quote on Wikipedia that Jim Harrison said that I was kind of taken with. He said that claiming I wanted Dionyson, but he wanted Apollonian.
Yep,
He took my
Apollonian.
wolf and made it into a chihuahua. I cracked up for 10 minutes and then went out into the country and stood in front of a wolf den and apologized while my dog hid under the truck.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's I came
he
across that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, so he wanted the spirit of this kind of chaos. And
Right.
probably the film that I would have preferred, whereas Nichols came in with order and reason and kind of did that. And like you said, I think Nicholson. I saw a quote where he said that this is what was the movie he wanted to prove that he could do
Right.
big blockbuster, and
Right.
he really can't do action, like you said.
No.
The action's very very weak in this.
Yeah. No. I think he could, but 20 years before this point in time, for him, you have to have him in his flew over a cuckoo's nest prime. You have to have him 70s Jack, 80s Jack, 90s Jack, maybe a little bit too much, too long in the tooth, pun intended. But
Yeah, and
I
this,
was gonna say,
yeah,
yeah, the uncredited female screenwriter who helped with The Wolf was Ellen May. But the film was
okay,
primarily written, like you said, by Jim Harrison and Wesley Strick. But May contributed to the screenplay, but she didn't get official credit. She's came in there and she helped do the little bit lighter hearted, kind of more almost funny
hmm,
type scenes that I think
yeah,
were offensive
yeah.
to what you just covered in all that. But anyway, just fun facts, and of course I would know I would want to go into that. But anyway, it just kind of cool. But I'll let you I'll throw it back to you. How did you laugh or chuckle or guffaw at any kind of the lighter scenes or the interjection of humor, or did you find it being kind of stapled in and too artificial for you to kind of really take in and enjoy?
No, the humor was good in it. I almost like I said, I wanted it'd been cool if they kind of stuck in a certain lane. Because like the whole office thing. I read where it was going to be like it was going to be a lawyer and it was going to be a law firm, but how many lawyer movies were there in the 90s? So they wanted to do something a little different,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
was good.
Which
I was really into books back then,
right.
so and I am now, but yeah, so it was fun to see the little Easter eggs in the movie. Like I sent you some links on one of the walls in the office of Jack's. There was a well this one there was a scene where yeah, that one, that Necroscope by Brian Lumley, that's off to that book cover, not quite that version of it, but there was a version of that skull with it open in the secretary's office where they kind of congregated most of the time, was there on the wall. I was like, hey, that's Brian Lumley's book. And then the other book is, you see the spine of the book, but there
Right.
was like several different Robert Jordan books behind them as Jack character Will was renegotiating with the head of the book firm, and he had like all these books behind his head, and one of them was Robert Jordan's book. So I noticed those, being the book nerd that I was. So I just wanted to point those out.
No,
If
outstanding.
someone else out there saw a different book that they were big on, you could mention it in the comments down below. But yeah, almost like the thing that really works for me was the office interplay
Mm.
with the various character, with what's his name from Frasier, what was his name, that character.
Stuart Swinson, for the
Yeah.
bad guy. Are
Oh
we?
well, there's James Spader, which was great, and then there was David Hyde Pierce as Roy McAllister.
Well, you're right.
Was a
Sorry, you're
fun,
right. Yeah,
yeah, was fun in it. But yeah, I almost wanted more of that.
that's
Yeah,
funny. You say
that
that.
would have been an interesting thing. More of a, like you said, more of an art house kind of thing. If they
Hmm.
kind of focused more on that aspect of it and
Yeah.
kind of downplayed the wolf. But they kind of downplayed the wolf at the beginning and then kind of amped it up on the second half. And sorry for the pun, but I don't really think it had the teeth to pull off the horror aspects of the second half of the movie. It kind of fall flat. It it kind of looked, they had that 90s movie look to it.
Right.
It didn't, it was drenched in 90s. I don't know how better to describe it. It was lit and filmed and everybody looked 90s, and it was just, I don't know. I wanted, eh, I like directors with more of a style to them. I don't know. There's not really a knock against this movie for its look, but it's just one of those aesthetics that doesn't appeal to me. It's I like more kind of a chaotic, maybe more of a kind of artistic,
Something to grab
it's
onto
kind of
other than just
yeah,
kind of waffling between
yeah.
this thing or that thing or half
Hmm.
completed, like not in a bad way. They're done competently, but I mean, we're not like really digging in here hardcore, but it is right. I think you're right because it does feel like they were making two movies at the same time.
Hmm.
Here on one side, here's our serious boardroom drama about the publishing industry and the politics and the backstabbing. And oh, by the way, Jack Nicholson might eat some bun.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
but but
that was usually the most interesting parts of the movie
it
was
could
in the
have,
office. And
yeah,
shout out to the Bradbury building that they used for the where they worked. If those keen cinemaphiles out there that watch us will notice that that was from they used that in Blade Runner.
very
That
cool.
office as well. Looking a little worse for wear in that, but it's been used in so many different movies. I would almost like to see a list of how many of all the movies that are used that interior of the office building, because that is very unique. The Bradbury building that's in Los Angeles. Of course, this movie takes place in New York, but
Right.
or supposed to
Supposed to be New
anyway.
York, right? Well, yeah, dog eat dog world, that kind of thing. But I was gonna say, Rick Baker did a pretty good job with the special effects too.
Yeah,
He
I wanted that's the thing that's the theme of this movie is I wanted more.
Well, that's the
Rick Baker,
problem
heard
because
yeah.
Mike Nichols does not know how to do action sequences. That is not insulting. That is just stating plain and
Hmm.
factually that it just they're there, but they're just a little bit. The adrenaline is missing a little bit. This movie is a very sedate movie. It's not. I mean, it has its high, it's loud points and whatnot, but it doesn't ever really get too loud. Like that's what the
Well, when James Spader goes full wolf, he does get a little loud and
well,
a
right,
little raucous. I that
right.
he goes full bore, and it kind of pulls you back for a second. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going there, we're saying that, are we? Okay.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
He's the things that he did was doing the Michelle Pfeiffer's character. It was like, oh dear.
right, right, right. Yeah, well,
And
okay.
Nichols thing with action is he likes to slow things down or pause things, and I don't know if that was probably the
Well,
best way to frame some of it, but
well, it also doesn't. It also is here. This is where the art house commentary would have made a lot more sense because there are very specific scenes that are direct and blunt. What you were talking about, as well as kind of like where Jack Nicholson urinates on Spader's
mm-hmm,
shoes, and or whatever,
mm-hmm,
like there's that kind of. You can definitely
mm-hmm,
tell that Nicholson, in his mind, I think that when he was showing up every day to the set, he envisioned or thought this movie was going to be something a little bit more. And
mm-hmm,
what we actually got was corporate $70 million thing. Maybe the corporate studio opinion was too heavy because this could have soared in another timeline, a few different. Of course, this is speculative, right? So it's all fiction, right? So,
mm-hmm.
well, if
Yeah.
only the sky was 35 degrees on that one day,
Mm-hmm,
like I'm not trying to get
mm-hmm.
that in the minutia for it, but it is very interesting. Although it did make some money, I would say I think it was not terribly
Yeah.
successful considering what it was, but it did weekend or two. It did beat out some heavy hitters back at the same time. It was also kind of screwed with what was coming out. I think Lion King was out the week after or something like that, and then the one before it had beat it out. But
Mhm.
it was a
Yeah.
classic '90s movie that everybody's seen a million times, and nobody's seen this one,
Mm.
but maybe twice, and you're proof of that. So,
Yeah. 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 And the second time out of your encouragement, but yeah. So
right.
I will shout out the obviously the acting was very good. I think yeah, with Michelle Pfeiffer, I heard that she wanted to do this movie because she was tired of putting on 18th century
Period
dresses and
pieces.
wearing
Yeah.
wigs, and
Right.
yeah, she just wanted to do something modern age. And I heard that like Sharon Stone and someone else had turned it down before she landed on it. Which Michelle Pfeiffer did a great job. She looks amazing. It's that 90s era version of Michelle Pfeiffer. Hitting on all cylinders. Obviously, James Spader was great in this. Christopher Plummer, the Jenkins as the detective investigating it. Uh, he was. I enjoyed him. The comedic parts of that with him, like he's kind of bumbling through, but trying to look like he knows what he's doing, but kind of
Yep.
being guided by all the the witnesses and their sway on him was interesting. David Hyde Pierce, and then it eagle-eyed people
Hmm.
maybe noticed David Schwimmer, pre Friends. He was the arresting officer in the zoo,
Okay.
arresting Jack Nicholson's character.
That
but
is
uh,
awesome.
but yeah, if you look close, you'll see him. And then one of the writers that was going to side with Jack, the character Maud Wagons, was played by Prunella Scales, who you might know from Faulty Towers, the wife of Faulty in there in that. But yeah, I thought I knew who she was. I had to look her up, and yeah, I was like, oh, Faulty Towers, yes, yes. The one thing that was puzzling me, I guess he's someone big. I don't know really who he is. Pari,
Hmm.
the Indian guy. I don't know why they well the character was older, but the why didn't they hire like a older gentleman to play him? But he played the mystic guy, the
Right.
writer that Jack goes to see. He was obviously made up to look old. I just don't know why they did that because it was obviously old makeup on a younger guy. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously now he could have played the role, but
It did look odd. He
that
did look odd. I'll give you that. He did look odd. And well, that's really where the only supernatural kind of flirting comes from in this film. Like this kind of the pretext of like you already suspected it, especially with the wound being bitten, and then the wound being a certain
Mhm.
way, and then you kind of seeing the effects as he goes in and out of his daily life. By Thursday night, we're howling at the moon.
Mhm.
So it has maybe supernatural is too strong of a word, like mystical, for sure. But again, this is like deconstructed werewolf. They didn't do the only thing they did was the moon, and then the bite. That's about it. They didn't
Mhm.
go into too much into it. So very interesting. Lightweight perspective. They didn't focus on that too much. They kind of like just like what you let the story tell the story, which I did appreciate. And I think even still, and I harp on this all the time. For if this were a modern film, it would have been CGI slap, and then it would have been exposition out the yin yang, telling you every little nickel and
Mhm.
dime and where to find it. Like, and it's like I don't want to see that. And it also probably would have been 3.5 hours. Like I'm kidding, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but all joking aside, I agree. Like, excuse me, I think Nicholson as his character did well enough. It just it's a shame because you can tell that like if everybody, even Michelle Pfeiffer, kind of came in and played it very serious, and believable
Mhm.
for the most part.
Yeah.
I wasn't taken out. Maybe I was taken out a little bit if you're like super, zooming in on the action sequences or whatever. But they still had good
Mhm.
practical effects, um, which you kind of touched on. But I was going to say Michelle Pfeiffer was, she was, absolute knockout. I'll say that. Of course, like at the height of, she was at the height, respectively, at her career and could do whatever she wanted. So like, this could have been a very different movie if it were a Kirsten Dunst, or something like that, or a,
Mhm.
a Witherspoon type. But and James Spader again, I think that he delivered on what could be the prototypes for his other characters a little bit later on, like
Mhm.
duplicitous, charming, invite you in. But but then when you see what you get, you see like this is morally bankrupt douchebag, confirmed kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yep.
interesting how he played that. He did again.
Yeah.
I think the actresses showed up and delivered.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that they were attracted to work with Mike Nichols, obviously, from The Graduate. They want to. I'm sure they respected his work and wanted to work with him, so that he attracted really good actors. In fact, Mia Farrow was actually supposed to play Jack Nicholson's wife in it, but
Interesting.
but it was yeah, during the big legal battle between her and Woody Allen, and she was kind of like poisoned to a film. So
Right.
they she was going to work for half the price, but I think the trial or whatever got in the way of filming, so she was recast, but that would have been interesting. And also, I know I brought up Roger Ebert on all of our werewolf movies,
Hmm.
or wolf movies so far. So I think I'll bring up a little quote from him on Wikipedia on what he says about this movie. I think I agree with him. He says Wolf is both more or less than a traditional werewolf movie, less because it doesn't provide the frankly vulgar thrills and excesses some audience members are going to hope for, and more because Nicholson and director Mike Nichols are halfway serious about exploring what might happen if a New York book editor did become a werewolf. So yeah, so he said, it didn't really deliver on the werewolf thrills that people
Right.
would normally have, but then there was the good parts of with the book editor stuff. So yeah, I would have to agree with him. And another fun fact about the movie, I think it was made during '92 and got delayed
Hmm.
several months and it finally came out in '94. And the opening day was the day that the white Bronco chase with O.J. Simpson happened.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
And
And later on, we would all see that the world would too. Hilarious.
yeah, yeah. No, I didn't go out on opening day because I didn't. But I remember the Bronco chase because I was it was in the afternoon, and I was getting on. I was trying to get on Delphi, which at the time, the internet, you would get online, you would dial in, and I would download my groups I was reading and posting on, and then you would upload them. But but yeah, I was trying to get connected, and I couldn't. The servers were down, and I was trying to connect while OJ was on the run in his white Bronco. I don't know if you remember what you were doing. You were quite young, so
That's funny. That's funny.
during the chase.
Yeah,
But yeah, the old internet,
yeah. No, I remember. I remember AOL chat. Chat rooms. And some script kiddie things that I would do back in the day. And then kind of learning about some forums here and there. I was on that. I was on very late in coming. Not for the '90s, but for that. But
Mhm.
I do. I will say, this if things would have gone the right way, I guess. This film could have been. It uses that supernatural horror elements. As metaphors like Black
Mhm.
Swan did, or The Shape of Water. I very much enjoyed that movie. Or even if you want a little bit more brutal, older, um, kind of more uncut, raw. The Fly, executed on that kind of genre elements that
Yeah,
explore
I did.
the
Yeah, that
psychology,
transformation.
right? And the social, anyway, yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. While I was watching this, I did get that vibe of this is the more polite society version of The Fly. Sort of
Right.
like the coffee the coffee table book version of
Right.
of that.
It's one where it's this is like gonna be like a surprise to people who or maybe don't know everything that Jack Nicholson ever did, or maybe even Michelle. However you come in on the film, there's a lot of big names that attach. This is gonna be like one that's kind of an asterisk, a little bit further, quite a bit further down on
Mhm.
the list, but it's a good fun. It's a good fun vibe. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I could say see you know you saw it at a younger age, and it had more of a an effect on you. Of course, you had your two bad guys from Batman movies. You know, Jack Nicholson as Joker
yep.
and Michelle
Yep.
Pfeiffer as Catwoman.
Right.
I'm sure that attracted you as well.
Oh,
It attracted
absolutely.
me as well. You know,
Well,
but
undoubtedly, I can tell you that absolutely went into the subconscious mind of a young Mike. And on top of the whole thing, it was just like I don't even remember where I became aware that it existed, but I remember seeing it. I think it was a trailer at a movie I had seen earlier that I was like, "That's cool. I want to know about that." And then I kept paying attention, but
yeah,
fascinating
that's
career blip for
what
all
is
involved, I think.
what was this movie rated? Was it R? 'Cause it really
It was
didn't
R.
have much.
It was R. Yep.
Okay, because it was kind of a soft R because there's not really.
Nowadays,
Well,
yeah.
there's a little bit of stuff at the end there with what
Well, there's
James
some.
Spader does and
Yeah.
says, but yeah, I could probably get away with a teenager or a young adult watching that, but yeah, yeah, it's like I said, it's a good movie that could have been greater. I kind of agree with the rating on there. I would say maybe a 6.5. If we were so inclined to give it a number, but yeah, it's definitely you won't be disappointed too much watching it, especially then I think that's one of the crimes of this streaming service stuff is that you know, why isn't this streaming everywhere?
Mm,
This is a competent. There's so much schlock and crap out there that you kind of scroll through on the streaming service.
right.
If this was up there, I think there's a placeholder on Tubi for it, so I'm sure it's been on Tubi before. These movies kind of cycle in and out of these
Right.
streaming services, so
Right. Right.
hopefully when it does show up you can catch it but yeah, it's one of those movies that's kind of gotten buried, and it's a fun little movie to watch. If you got dressed up and paid full price at the theater, you might be a little bit disappointed, but yeah, watching at home in your jammies, it's kind of a
It
fun movie to
it
watch.
it is. I would say it's probably not a Friday or a Saturday night movie. I would say it's probably
Mhm.
more like a Monday through Thursday maybe night movie. If you were to kind of like watch that and just see it, I still maintain that if it was made today, it would have been way over budget, and it would have been CGI, and it would have been trash. But for what they tried to do, if A24, or maybe if this is more of a $5 million indie shot, maybe, obviously that changes everything quite a bit, all the way out through who plays what. But back then, you had you had scenes directed by a Broadway legend, and then you had, basically $70 million, most of that going to Jack Nicholson, philosophical werewolf movie that didn't quite know what genre it wanted to be, but with good aspects otherwise that didn't quite hit the mark for action or whatever. But
Mhm. Yeah,
it's a beautiful, shaggy cinema creature that I like to pet once in a while. Obviously it made its
and
impression on me, whatever. But like at rating.
right.
I don't know. I don't think I could rate this because it's just too much of a personal.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
It's not in the top 20 of my movies of movies I like to at any point in time probably could watch or rewatch rather. It's probably
Hmm.
like further down on the top of 100, 200 maybe.
Yeah,
But
yep,
I don't know
yeah.
what are your thoughts? I think we're kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I give it a good 6.5. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a bad movie, obviously. And then the scenes that make me smile are the things in the office, with him pissing on the shoe and just kind of really coming into his own.
Right.
You like sad sack coming into his own
Well,
and
it's
kind of proving
tension.
himself.
Yeah.
You like that stuff.
Wanna cheer
So yeah,
for him.
that's
Right.
fun. And there's something about I'll bring it back up. Jack Nicholson, giving his best Logan Wolverine
Right.
look, running around in his dad slacks, chasing down a deer.
JC
You
Penney.
can't. That's priceless. If you said someone should do up a little Sears Roebuck or J.C. Penney
I
ad
tell
with
you what, there.
for dad slacks.
You know what? You joke about it, but maybe that's something I should put in the back burner offline here and screw around with. Like,
Right.
there's got to be an AI something or other
There's
for
a
this
there's a
thing. Yeah,
meme. There's a definite meme that you could create. Yeah, yeah. You need to take the reins of this meme engine that this little movie
I tell you what.
can be.
If we could upload this as some kind of a meme or series of memes or
Mhm.
meme fuel to broader society and it catches fire, that would be good enough for me, I guess, to pay homage. Because I really did like it because I guess to me it's more of it's a fun watch. And like I said, I am the one coming into this imprinting or putting a filter rather, not a print, but like another layer of Wolverine and Sabretooth, da 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 da, and like what could be, like these are very kind of like very
Yeah,
adolescent
that's
kind of
and
thoughts.
me being the comic book nerd as well. I did get that, especially during that scene with him, wolfing out and chasing the deer.
Right.
He definitely gave off the Wolverine vibes, and I had the same thoughts of if this back in the '70s, if they had gotten serious about an X-Men movie, he would have been perfect for
Perfectly
Logan
said.
Wolverine, maybe in the early '80s as well. But when Chris Claremont was really coming into his own on the X-Men, but yeah, it's like I said, it's definitely a fun movie.
I
And
think
then the before we leave the movie, I do have to circle back to the
yes,
end.
I was
So if
gonna say.
you don't want any spoilers, maybe skip ahead a few minutes here. But what the hell was the ending was up until the cops show up at the end. There on, I was like, what the fuck? What's with the Michelle Pfeiffer being a werewolf? What's going on there, Mike?
Well, I think that I think it was very interesting, and I'll kind of cheat here and I'll get serious. But I think that black and white scene because she kind of she had the two cops there, and you had I'll quit screwing around here, like the that I think I loved it. I loved it because it gave a nerd or somebody who was excited about what he was seeing a like what would so this is why I like this because this could have been something even more if it had been art house, if it had been followed its natural instincts for that. But yeah, it was I don't know, like I think it worked for me for the most part. Like I get it,
Okay,
like
okay. Well,
that's why I was so excited because like again, it was kind of like oh, if only this would have been some kind of version of like in the 80s or 70s, like you said, like of Jack Nicholson and whatever, because you could totally see and of course maybe this makes more sense in 2025 like where you did get alternate versions of Wolverine back then, you did, but the X-23 and the other ones kind of didn't come for later, so like this could have absolutely been like a thing of like, and then it kind of tilts it on its head. It's like, whoa, what the F? Did she get bit? Or like, how did that happen? You know, like that's kind of being like a little bit more of a Clerks level nerd, you know, talking about if the Death Star caused so many, it killed so many workers. Anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, here's here's my concern with them because the fan theory is that she was a werewolf all the time, and she was she was the wolf at the beginning that turns Will to begin with, but that doesn't make sense through the whole movie looking at her through her eyes. I mean, why was she scared of Will? Why did she go to the police? It throws a monkey wrench in every one of her actions prior to the end of the movie. So when did she become a werewolf? And what the hell?
It also kind of also plays into like, you know, so I guess she just kind of has like a werewolf kind of kink or you know, like because if you would not go on a date if a guy half looked like he was a hobo and he was kind of doing kind of some crazy, unless you saw him like jump 20 feet, absence of that, and you're just kind of seeing this thing, your normal reaction is going to be to run the other way, like not to date the guy or to get involved with any of these people, you know. That's kind of the thing.
Okay, well, okay, I can see. Okay, I just explained it in my head just now. Okay, all right. Well, screw the fan theory. Here's my understanding of it as we talk. Okay, so they had their night of sex or whatever. Her and Jack. Evidently they kind of got loud because he kind of, you know, he thought the hotel manager was showing up, and so he's going to pay him off for making too much noise while they were having sex. He probably bit her during sex, right?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So my other concern was when James Spader was attacking her. If she was a werewolf, she would attack back, but she hadn't turned yet. So it wasn't until that night, after all that crap, that she turned as well.
Right. That makes sense.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
I don't really dig the fan. I don't think that makes sense at all. But that's just me.
No, that's yeah.
I think it's a little bit more simpler like that because, well, obviously, or maybe it wasn't a bite. I don't know. Like we don't know. But like, you know, obviously with the activities going on, there is obviously things that are there. There's, you know, like,
exchanging of fluids. I'm sure.
Whatever. Right. And who knows? Maybe somebody's a little bit rough and they break the skin, whatever. You know, like there is that. That is very much implied in the whole thing, to be fair. So I didn't really, it didn't really bother me too much. Like I just kind of accepted it and kind of moved on. Like again, you know, we kind of get wavy handsy with some of the kind of things, you know, and then you get the thing. It's just kind of like, you know, like where she goes and she says to the cop, you know, and I'll put it back in the sharing mode here. Like where she talks to, God, it's so iconic. He's been Richard Jenkins, like who also played Dad in Step Brothers. But anyway, he's iconic. But he, you know, he's like, how does she know? You know, and then you know she can hear them like that. That's the kind of the obviously that's the thing. And he also was in Shape of Water too, I should say. And I was gonna, shame on me, I didn't do this earlier, but I did. I think we're wrapping up here the caboose, but like, I mean, you had really good, how anybody could have not watched this and then like kind of thought Sabretooth or Wolverine or something, it played perfectly into that. In another decade, had ages been different and rise and fall of comic books and major, the big screen, of course, we wouldn't see that until X-Men, which was much later on, late 90s when it was in production, and then 2000s obviously we broke into the whole different new world. But yeah, this is a great 90s movie. Like the just, it's not a bad movie at all. Is it great? No. Like I said, it's like a Monday through Thursday kind of movie. Like where maybe it's okay to fall asleep, and then put it back on the next time you see it. But I think we're rolling up here to the caboose. Did you have any other thing
Yep.
you wanted to add?
Just that. I think we're talking about Rick Baker. His job was a little tougher because Jax was allergic to spirit gum, and that's what they
Huh.
apply. They use to apply all the hair and whatnot onto the skin, and so he had to use this other stuff that wasn't as good and took longer. And one day he forgot and used spirit gum on Jack and accidentally used it on him. And then the next day, because he was always thinking, well, he thought maybe Jack was joshing him about the spirit gum thing, and he accidentally used it on him one day. And Jack came in with rashes all over his face. He goes, Ricky, you used spirit gum, didn't you? Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, he wasn't joshing him when he said that. So
That's funny.
oh,
Yeah.
and go ahead.
I was going to say the cinematography by veteran Giuseppe Rotunno. He had a whole visual language that he brought to it, which he had worked with another Italian, Filoni, Federico, and Viscotti, Luciano. But
Mm-hmm.
again, those are kind of like European. They would have brought European art house sensibility, which would have made sense if they would have went with that natural kind of higher, serious kind of flow with the movie. Anyway, that was just my 2 cents that I want to throw out.
Yeah, and John Williams was supposed to do the score, but he wasn't able to, and they got Ennio Morricone, another Italian,
Right on.
to do the soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really a big Morricone. Well, I like his westerns, but soundtracks. But I don't know. This soundtrack just it really didn't stand
It's all
out to
right.
me.
Right. It was all right.
Yeah,
It was no Gladiator
okay.
soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was getting up in age, so I'm
Right.
sure he wasn't at his prime there. And speaking of music, as I was kind of thinking last night after I watched the movie, there's a song that got stuck in my head a year or two ago. That's perfect for this, and I would like to recommend it to the fans out there. It's the Interrupters, "Raised by Wolves." Excellent song. When I heard it, I kept listening to it for a couple of days, re-listening.
You read it twice.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep
Kind
talking.
of a they're kind of a style kind of band. This songs were kind of punk rock kind of sounding. Fun little tune. I'll just say that.
No, I like it. I've never heard this before, and we had talked before, and to kind of throw it on here. I could get this is cool. This is cool. There is it's so funny you say punk or that kind of aesthetic. Like there's a YouTuber I follow that like he puts 3/4 the first the first 3/4 of all of his videos are all like punk, and it's not good punk. It's like indie punk, whatever. But indie free flowing punk is not good with like a montage or like your creator version of your video. It's jarring. It's too jarring. Like he kind of chills out like the back third of his thing. But anyway, this is good. I like this. That would be cool to check it out. So again, as always, we at the First to Last Nerdom, we are bringing you these wonderful nuggets and YouTube things that you can find and enjoy. Hopefully, I recommend this one to see just to say you saw it, or to kind of pull out that you had mentioned this a couple weeks ago, or within the last few weeks, like where hey. Sometimes you can get a movie recommendation that nobody knows about, and you kind of put it in the back pocket and then bring it out when it's there. But like, and that's where we try to aim to find just fun things to watch. I couldn't give it a rating, but I probably would be maybe a little bit behind you on the rating if I were, but I'm not gonna put a number on it because I give it a 9 in other aspects, and that's just gonna screw up the whole rating anyway. So. And,
Gotcha.
and God knows,
Yep.
the one thing the internet cannot stand is if you have an opinion that is nuanced and well founded. Of course, I'm kidding, but
Yeah. Have an opinion and wave a flag. But anyway, so we
indeed,
we've got exciting things. This is coming out the first couple of days of March, but we're not in March proper. We're saving our March stuff, but we've got good plans. We'll just give you the name of the month. We're going with March Madness. So we're gonna got a madness theme to it, not the band, but the idea of madness. So we're gonna get our madness and craziest movies going this month. So yeah, to kind of stick with us because this previous month was sort of wolf theme for the most
yep.
part. We're kind of looking more towards themes for months. So if you have a theme that you're kind of thinking about and would love us to do, give us a shout out. And also,
Absolutely.
I am happy with our couple of subs that we got over the past week. We're 419. We're looking for that 420. Who's going to make it? But yeah, yeah. And if you found us, let us know how you found us. Yeah, and if you made it this far, you might like us. So give us a like, subscribe, and thumbs up
Awesome.
if you liked us.
All right, I've been Mike.
And I'm Tom.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Yep. Go run with some wolves.
Ooh, ooh. All right,
Oh!
but